That's what, actually, well, we have to do this,
Oh,
all right? Yeah. We already moved on to. Public comment. Hearing none. We'll move on to the treasurer.
Okay, we have two items from the finance committee. The first is the bills, and the board or the finance committee makes a recommendation that we approve the payment of our monthly bills in the amount of $38,556.56.
second.
I don't know, you
You do that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the second item is that the finance committee makes a recommendation that our treasury bills that are coming due at the end of August, that we reinvest those in another 3-month treasury bill.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's what we have from the finance committee.
Next is our consent agenda.
It's just the minutes, right?
The minutes, there is no Upper Hudson, there is no president's report. Admin committee report, you're gonna do something verbally?
I can do verbal,
Okay.
and we had,
Shall we do this first and then
okay,
poll? So I'm gonna, you wanna poll yours?
okay.
Poll. So I make a motion.
I'm sorry, do we have discussion?
Or,
I'd like to ask that the building committee report be added to consent agenda. There's an item that would be a topic of discussion later on in the agenda, but I'd like that included in the consent agenda.
So we're voting,
okay,
we're adding it to the consent agenda now.
Just the minutes.
so we're polling. You want yours on and then poll because we're gonna discuss it as part of the agenda.
No, there's a motion that will make, that'll be a separate item, but the minutes themselves will be part of the agenda. Consent agenda.
It's already in. Yeah.
You got it?
Actually, it's not in, so I'd like to add it in.
I gave you that choice before, but against it, so, okay. So it's those two pieces, Brianna. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second, please seconds, all in favor? Let's see, so I'll have some things to say about it later.
Sure, no, support that.
I have it on the Dropbox, it's the one on the Dropbox is the message statement, right?
Yes,
So it had the $10,000.
okay. All right, so the next thing we have is the tax cap override approval. That's in here.
Wait, so the admin committee report.
Oh, thank you, Brianna. Sorry, you want to go through your?
Admin committee report, okay. We had a meeting of the admin committee to review the director's evaluation. Their documentation of that is still in progress. And we've not yet been able to schedule a time to meet with the director. That's it.
This one.
Well,
Okay. Thank you. So now we're going to tax cap override approval. So in order to, there's a resolution in the packet. So we can go over the state tax cap. We need to have this approved. We need to have this approved by more than a majority. I think in our poll last month, we seem to have agreement to passing this. So I will make the motion that resolve that pursuant to General Municipal Law 3-C5, the Board of Trustees of the Troy Public Library overrides for the 2024 fiscal year the tax levy limit imposed by municipal law 363. First, is there a second? Okay, was there any discussion? Okay,
Say on here, it says three.
Yeah.
three, C3.
No, three, oh, you said 360.
I did, I was gonna say. Okay.
That's okay.
All in favor? Marie?
I said
I didn't hear it. Hey, thank you. I know, and he usually doesn't.
No, I didn't hear anything. So that
Done.
everybody.
Yeah,
was,
So it's no abstention.
Well, I think everybody said yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure. All right, the 2023 budget approval. So now we all have our budget,
Why is that say 2023?
because I didn't type them again.
I know, I didn't. I'm asking myself,
I don't know.
the 2024 budget?
Here's the other one that says,
Approval?
check your dates. And it's
Uh,
like that.
Now, last time we discussed the budget and, we wanted to add an additional 10,000, for the building, in some ways, and I understood that people were interested in somehow carrying that over as an amount, so that's why I called it building contingency, but there was some discussion as to maybe it should just go into normal building repairs.
Your building reserve, what's wrong what's wrong with building reserve?
Well, nothing in and of itself.
So why,
I mean, technically, you could say that.
yeah,
Nobody likes my contingency word,
Okay, so I'm confused. You keep saying that we're not really supposed to put that in as stated
That's my
in
understanding.
an operational budget.
I didn't
And
ask
now
the
you're,
lawyer. And that's my understanding that it's not, we're not supposed to put things in design to be carried over.
okay, but we don't expect this to be carried over because it's only $10,000 and we can use
Really,
it.
yeah.
by saying reserve, it almost implies that you're putting in reserve, and when you're talking about doing this on a bigger scale, and this is the first step, it implies just that.
No, but that doesn't mean, even though it may be a building reserve, that you're going to be carrying it over in any way.
It seems like a slippery slope. And maybe it's just splitting hairs, but it just seems like if you're not supposed to do something, you try to avoid making it sound like you're doing just what you're not supposed to do.
Well, that's why I like building contingency.
Sorry, I might be missing, I'm probably missing something. Again, I'm having a hard time hearing, but is there a reason why we can't just lump the 10,000 into the repairs line?
Well, that would be the simplest thing to do right now. And you know, it's obvious that we increased the building repairs line by that much, you know.
Although I don't know that it says the same thing. I don't know that it says, hey, we should be putting money in for the upkeep of the building. And that's what, at least my intent was. And I know that Keith has also felt that there's a need for a building reserve that should be funded in some way. And I know Keith can talk for himself, sorry. But the idea was, hey, let's tell the taxpayers that there's a need for this. And at least start them thinking in these terms. Kirsten, maybe you have a better word for it?
I hear the comments and I support those comments in general. I did have a question. I think someone mentioned, I apologize, I missed it. I can't, Evelyn, I can't remember if you mentioned it or Paul, if you mentioned it. something about, there being a prohibition somewhere in state law, I'm not sure, about creating funds that would be carried forward. Did I
Yeah, I
mishear
mean,
that?
creating a fund, I mean, we're allowed to carry money over, but creating a fund specifically with tax dollars, I don't think is good policy, but I have not engaged the lawyer on this question.
So we
So-
think there might be something, but we aren't sure whether there's some.
We think there is, and under, good, accounting principles. Especially when you're dealing with tax dollars.
I can speak about it. I beg pardon. Excuse me.
I don't care what actually you call it. You could call, I mean, I would, a better name for that account is probably the repair and maintenance, but it's still $10,000 more than what we had in before that.
Speaking from other tax collecting organizations that are publicly run, I can say with confidence and that school districts have capital reserve funds that they carry over all the time. Now, maybe there's a cap to what the value is in that, but they do it all the time. And the caps that I've seen are well in excess of $10,000. And maybe 10 or 100 times larger than that.
But their capital reserve accounts might be,
That are part of their annual budget.
yeah, but it might be part of carrying over funds. In other words, you got some kind of carryover, you put it into. capital reserve.
That may well be, yes. So that's part of their annual budget that they fund those pieces.
I'm just talking about intent here. I'm not sure that they specifically budget and collect taxes to be carried over.
They do.
Well, I don't know, okay.
Now, there's a school districts that I understand are different than libraries, but I don't know when the libraries have other specific.
We follow municipal law, whereas school district library would follow school district law, so. And as I say, I'm not an expert here, I haven't consulted the attorneys, I don't care what you call it, as long as it gets into the budget.
So I'm comfortable carrying it as a line item here, whether it's called contingency or whether it's called reserve, I'm okay with that. I like having it as a separate line item. That we can then use as part of planning for capital projects and fundraising, not fundraising, grant writing. And I think that as we move forward, we should look at understanding what municipal law limitations there might be.
Well, you just mentioned capital projects. Could that be the label?
I'd be comfortable with that, yeah.
But I remember even last year, the whole point was an operational budget doesn't cover capital projects.
Sure.
Again, I don't know why that is. School districts, like I said, do it all the time as part of a capital reserve fund that is designed for capital projects. So, and part of their annual budget. So I'd like to have some guidance from legal if there's a prohibition for libraries to do that.
And we answer possibly to different authority. So there are different nuances.
And that's.
And I agree. But before we do that, I would rather not get ourselves into a position where we're trying to defend something.
Yeah.
And I understand the purpose. I understand the purpose of, and the way you want to use that language. It's just, at the same time, we need to pass a budget. We need to put it in front of the public. This is 0 hour. And I don't want to, well,
Enough of the nuances, if we don't have it in black and white that says no. We do keep it as a separate account. You call it building reserve, maintenance reserve,
no
you can
reserve.
call it contingency, but I do not want to see it lumped into any other category. And we do have to contact the lawyer. That's the only way we're gonna settle this.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't see the city doing that either. In their budget. But anyway. What are we doing?
So do we have consensus on, at least this time around, leaving it the word contingency, but keeping it a separate line?
Yes.
No. Carolyn?
No, I'm just looking at Bethlehem Public. They have a line that's capital improvements contingency
Contingency.
as part of their
School district.
Brianna,
Bethlehem Public Library. That's-
you're okay with
Sure.
contingency?
They're a school district library.
Yeah.
The only one, is there any other municipal library around?
East Greenbush.
East Greenbush is, I think, yeah.
Well, municipal, that would be,
The
the municipal library is, Sanford.
That's not just one.
Yeah, school district. one.
But
It's just,
we're not a
it's
municipal,
not a big deal, but
we're still not a municipal
when the
library.
library district is going through
But he said we're governed by this.
Governor,
And,
we have a whole different set of rules.
when it comes to some laws, when those laws, those libraries follow state with school law, school district law. And so when they got to the special legislative district libraries, they said, well, we can't put them in school district law. We have to follow something. So they go into municipal law. Really, literally, if you ask questions to the controller's office, they don't have a clear idea here. How that works. I'm just trying to be, not get caught in some kind of. Course. All applicable laws and regulations. In order to save money on our lawyers, fees, I didn't ask.
Let's talk,
Because we had to ask them a whole lot in the last 2 months.
shall we talk to Tim, because maybe he's gone through this already, and he always says that ask
Well,
him first.
it's not a
and then
legal
go-
opinion, though.
True, but he might have had the legal opinion or knows the library that has one. He's always our first resource.
So you're saying East Greenbush also is not a good comparison?
What's that?
Were you just saying that East Greenbush is also not a good comparison?
Yeah, they're
Same way that
a
Bethlehem-
legislative district library, so is North Greenbush, matter of
Okay,
fact.
then never mind. Because East Greenbush literally calls it proposed 2023 operating and reserving.
Interesting. And someone else is concerned. We gotta look into that. We need to do something now.
Maybe nobody knows. Maybe the other places are
Oh, that's
are
true.
making it up too.
Although, following another library is also not a legal opinion.
I just thought it might give it some terminology that we would all be
Well,
comfortable with.
Well,
I'm comfortable with whatever, so.
shall we go at least this year with contingency? Okay, I know that, I don't think we need to vote on that. We'll just vote on the budget, but at least we've come to some sort of understanding.
Is that what it's been?
well, we do
Is that
have to
what it's been?
approve the budget.
Yeah, he just added this, so this is a new word.
We do have to approve the budget.
That's, I know that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, but we needed to get that part over
So
first.
So that
Okay.
when we make the ballot.
Okay. So are there any other questions or anything else before we go through our little process of approval? All right, so step one, I'll make the motion to approve the proposed 2024 budget that we have in our packet.
And I'll make the second.
Okay, discussion?
I think we did.
I'm talking.
I think we've had lots of discussion, right?
Yes, but Carolyn, if I don't say that, then I get yelled at. So. All right, so, all of approval? Yeah. And,
So then,
oh, it looks like we have unanimous approval here. Okay, facility use policy.
Okay, this was in Dropbox as well. This came about when I was looking at the meeting use policy. because libraries have been concerned with challenges, and part of that would involve using the facility, the facilities, meeting rooms, display space, that sort of thing. So we do have a meeting room policy, or we had a meeting room policy that's was approved in 2011, I believe. But we also have left over a facilities use policy. So we had two policies that are talking about essentially the same thing. So basically what I did here is I combined them so that we have one library use policy, which is, by the way, probably a better terminology than facility use policy. What I put here in yellow were the changes to the meeting room policy. And those changes, well, let's look at these. Well, I said, when I opened it, I said that it includes the meeting rooms, exhibit spaces, and equipment. But I also added in the second paragraph a description of the library's interest and purpose. And basically what I added were ways that we can say no to some requests for use of the facility if they're not appropriate. To the library's goals, for the library's reason for being. And these are taken again, recommended that you have these statements. I based that on some of the challenge literature. When you get down to display guidelines, the Detroit Public Library upholds the principles of intellectual freedom and supports open access to information, ideas, and diverse viewpoints. The library recognizes that displays may include materials that some may find controversial. The library does not endorse or censor the viewpoints expressed in the displays. Some of those things are new additions. Again, designed to, give the library some flexibility in all decisions involving use of the meeting room or displays and around the building. Were there questions people had? I was going to change the title to library use policy.
Or just if you want library facilities use policy.
Or something like that, yeah.
And
Library.
library facilities use policy
Yeah.
and leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's part better if you, than just libraries on its own.
Yeah.
Madam President, would you like a motion at this point?
If you would like to make so, please.
I would make a motion that the board approve the library facilities use policy as presented before us.
Second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Yes,
I didn't hear. Marie,
you say yes.
I can't hear Marie, yes. Okay, I guess it's unanimous.
Same frequency.
Okay, building committee report.
I would like to change that from building committee report to building committee recommendation. I think the report has been accepted. I'd like to make a motion that, after discussion with the building committee, and a vote by the building committee, that the board accept the recommendation of the building committee for capital project planning, long-range planning, as summarized in the building committee report submitted on 27 July 2023. That appropriately worded?
Are you talking about page 2 of this, then?
Yes.
Okay.
Portion of page 2. Everything's up at the top.
So, we need a second,
I would ask if there's a second.
second,
Would
So
ask-
everything under the part you crossed out.
Yes,
Okay.
so,
Which is
Yeah.
what we have here.
yes. Yeah, pick one,
Discussion,
pick one and pass it on, please.
it's one of each, right?
So I'll say,
I thought there was something different.
no, but I'll say.
No, no,
So it's on you, right? It's this, it's on here. Just its own thing.
Yes.
I'm not in the building committee, so I'm sure you guys have all talked about this.
That's okay. That's what, that's.
Can you
Yeah, good one.
explain then the A? Part that you're saying would be open to the following, but we need to like figure something out before next June?
So, this is a proposal that Evelyn put forward, so I'll let Evelyn describe DA, or would you like me to describe it?
I don't know what you mean when I put a proposal forward.
Option DA was an option I believe that you had put together, and if you'd like, I can try.
Oh, that it's a special focus library?
Yeah.
You mean you want to,
Well, I'm just curious, if like the language is rather passive, so I'm wondering, is the building committee committing to pursuing that road, or is the hope that someone picks up that mantle and makes that happen, but if no one picks up that mantle, the building committee will drop it? I'm just curious how that effort will happen, if it will.
And that's the bottom paragraph down here.
yeah, yeah. And there's more.
I didn't get that far.
Sorry. Does that answer your question?
Yes, the timeline is, for this is, June 28th, 2024. And then it will be shelved unless, a white knight comes from the outside.
So when you say with which to potentially collaborate for option H, you mean option BA?
GA, yeah.
I'm
That
sorry.
last paragraph.
Maybe I'm getting
not sure
confused
where you're
between three
looking at.
people who are talking about all these, alphabet soup.
The last one says Evelyn Catherine Stein did not report on any potential culturally and programmatically compatible 501(c)(3)
Yeah.
organizations with which to potentially collaborate for option DA.
Both
You
of they,
are correct.
that,
Okay.
That sentence is not part of the
So
recommendation.
hoping for a white knight, but not.
No, I think
no.
for the first year, Evelyn has been and will continue to for the next year, up until 28th of June, to pursue and cultivate and find such a organization that
or organizations.
or organizations that she's identified previously.
Okay.
But then, if that doesn't happen by the 28th of June, we would then move forward with other options.
Okay,
But if someone were to show up and say, hey, we've got
yeah.
$10 million, we want to do something with you because we're wonderful, and we're so simpatico.
We'll take it.
We will consider talking with, yeah, we'll talk. We're not saying, oh, no, you're all here on the 29th of June, that's too late, we're never talking to you ever again. That's not the intent, you know, it's. If,
And what we're doing in the meantime is stabilizing, maintaining the building. And we think that 5 years, 4 or 5 years down the line is a good time to take a breath, look around and determine what we want to do in terms of enhancement 10 or 20 years out from that, or where do we want to go? But we're not abandoning the care of Lansingburg of this building, and we're going to stay the course on what we're doing in the next 4 or 5 years. At that point, we have to evaluate what else we do.
So I don't step on anybody else's having questions or comments. Does anyone right now want to add to this discussion? Is else? I'm the one that voted no. I'm the one nay. Because I think the options and the way they've been laid out are not balanced. Saying that one option gets 5 to 10 years of being pursued and another one gets 1 year. When things could change. I had some concerns with that. And I'm trying to say it as diplomatically as ever as possible to do, because I'm not always that good about that. I have some real concerns with that, and I still have concerns. I know that the concept is we can't drag this on forever, but other things will be dragged on for a very long time too. So I think parity is very important in most of our decisions. And there is no parity, and I understand exactly why. But so I do have issues. I still have issues. I still will vote no on accepting this. What do you call it? You want to call it now? Recommendation. I don't think it's the wisest decision for our public, for this library. So.
Is there a reason why you have the 1 year horizon on DA?
well, and I have to say that I thought I had previously brought this to the board, and I brought it to the board and pulled it back and did not vote on it. So this is actually something we talked about 8 months ago.
Okay.
So, no, don't be sorry. That's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not having closed that loop 6, 8 months ago. I think it was November. That being said, we've already put during our process, we've already putting in process, trying to explore this further at the time. Since November until now, we've been exploring that as well. We felt that adding another year onto this here was sufficient time to at least identify somebody who might be appropriate to pursue option DA with. Option DA, when we did our investigations, was the most expensive option that was considered. And there were questions about whether the library had the resources financially and from a staffing standpoint to pull that off. So we really do need, if we're going to go that route, we do need a very healthy, financially healthy organization, as well as an organization that is hopefully compatible. So we've been talking about it for over a year internally as a committee. We've been talking about it. It was brought to the board in November, 8 months ago. So I think a lot of times already going into that process, there had been talks about the Historical Society had been potentially somebody that might be interested, but turned out they didn't have any money, and turned out that they had a change in leadership. And so that organization And perhaps I'm saying,
Let me speak, you know.
perhaps they will come forward as a viable option, we don't know. But at any rate, there have been some feelers out there, and so far nothing's come up. So we felt we really need to draw a line to the searching and move forward with at least trying to develop other options to the next level. This is not a commitment that we must do something. It was we want to bring it to the next level.
And I,
I just want to say, just that says committee could be open to the following. I mean, it's not saying we have to do it. It just, we could be open to it. So why could we not be open to it over the whole, at any time?
because
I think we do that if someone were to come to us, it's not that we wouldn't consider it, but our active pursuit,
Oh, our active
our uses of
Yeah.
our
Okay,
resources,
Okay, gotcha. All right.
we're allowing a year
That's the
for.
difference. Gotcha.
And-
Okay.
And that is a real stumbling block, I think, at the time, because sometimes you can identify someone who you might want to approach after because something's new. And when you talk about the 8 months ago, the Historic Society did not have an executive director. Now they do.
You're correct.
So by pinning it on the 8 months, it becomes a little bit disingenuous.
That's
that's one.
when I brought it to the board, and that's when I
Yes.
picked that date.
So by saying 8 months ago, we should have put a pin in it, well, when our most likely collaborator, who, by the way, at one point, except for the financial thing, said, "Well, possibly." They were not thinking it was the worst thought in the world. And a former director, in fact, is the one that came and said, this would be a great idea.
They did, yes, you're right.
Okay.
I don't dispute that at all.
Oh, good.
They had no money, but very
But
good.
still, little, but this is why you build synergy between two different types of institutions, one being a 501c3, one being a tax, supported entity. So this is how you build that when you can sit down and are able to talk to someone who actually has the authority to start talking about it.
And
Now,
what-
another,
Can I just ask, when they said this would be a good idea, what was their thinking about? What benefit it would be to them or to us? What is the collaboration? What, have they laid out anything about why it's a good idea, or just because it's a historical building where the Historical Society, it'll be a good idea?
No,
They
they-
didn't have any concrete reasons
yes,
to say that.
yes, they're
Okay.
thinking that this could be an amazing research facility. Used by the public, used by researchers. It's getting together themselves and other institutions that have that capacity and make this something that it is a viable, vibrant center. And still keeping it under library auspices. So yes, in talking one-on-one, there was possibilities. It's just refocusing that again and having maybe some people talk to our building committee. I think that might be an idea. How's that? Okay, so that's one too. And I'm going to ask, put it that way, about the fact that this was the most expensive option. I know I have mentioned it and I will mention it again here in a public forum, that I think there's a lack of proper comparison in the dollars in the different options. I think one is in more current dollars, the other is not as current. And two, if having gone through this for some time now, the numbers of, say, looking at another facility in addition to this, the numbers used are not as accurate as we saw some time ago when we were really trying to look at places and facilities. So I have some, thoughts about that too. And I think we need to look at those numbers before we say this is the most expensive one. I think they need to be recalculated, relooked at, and taken apart more carefully.
I wish you brought it up sooner. We could
I have, but
Sorry,
sometimes
you-
it gets, what I have to say gets lots of the sauce, and I know that.
Well, the numbers are based on feedback from the director in terms of staffing, anticipated needs for staffing and costs for staffing. They are estimates, yes, but I believe they are consistently applied across all the options that were discussed. We had a realtor in to advise on costs of property. We had,
Yes, we did.
and so we wrote that into those were estimates as well, and those were historic numbers that were started 2 years ago or more that probably will need to be updated, but I believe they were consistently applied across all the options that were explored.
And I do know, because I also remember the numbers that the director had come up with, which do not correspond to the numbers on that sheet. And I do know what stay at one point, the building cost was going to be. Again, discrepancies that I see, that I have mentioned, but. And I understand, I know the process here, not unaware, but. I just think these are things that need to be said and I need to say them.
I think that we were trying to refrain from never doing anything because we were always keeping all these options open. And that we were trying to focus our attention on some of the most reasonable approaches. The question arose as to whether sufficient time had been given to exploring the special library and whether there were people who really had the capabilities of doing that and weren't just looking for space without having any money to follow it. And there was questions about whether there had been enough time put into an active search for somebody who might be a partner in that. And that's why it was extended to a year from one mistake that originally talked.
If we've gone all this time and we've come up with one option that's not even viable, then how likely is it we'll come up with others?
That's why we wanted to be fair
Be fair.
by giving it a year and yet also putting a time limit on it, so it isn't taking our
Yeah.
resources unduly.
That's what I'm saying. I think we probably could have ended up. Given what we've gotten out of it.
And then I think that we agreed, the building committee agreed that adding this additional time to that would give some time to pursue that further. And it doesn't mean it has to be done and resolved and signed off on by then, but we need to, it would give opportunity to find a partner. There's some legal questions as well that would need to be explored. If it's even possible to have joint ownership with various organizations or how the arrangement would have to be structured. So it does take time to do that, so.
And as a taxing entity, is that what you're talking about? Because the public who's paying the taxes might have something to say about it.
Of course. So, but this is not saying this is something we would do. This is saying something we're trying to describe or refine the exploration process. We have to follow whatever steps we need along the way to get approvals and legal authority and feedback from players that should be complying with those requirements. But we thought valuable to try and spell out a direction that we want to at least pursue. Okay. Anything else to add on that? Brianna, any questions on your end?
I mean, I have a lot, but.
Go for it.
everybody-
I hadn't asked.
No, please ask them.
So, I guess I'm going back to my initial question, which is that is the building committee committing to putting forth resources toward exploring options BA, or is the building committee not going to put forth that effort as a committee? And leave that responsibility to whoever wants to pick up that mantle.
I mean, finding a collaborator.
Yeah,
I don't think the committee is gonna be part of it unless certain members decide they want to go out, but I think that mantle's been put on my shoulders. And I take that mantle very seriously, but no, I think there are members who probably would not pursue that.
It was
so the committee as a whole will
I think Evelyn do it, was trying to assign some responsibility, so somebody would do it, which didn't occur in the past.
I know when you asked that question about research, you have an idea, give us an example of what research you what we were doing. Are we taking that in the track record? How are we doing this? What research are you thinking of?
I haven't thought it through that much further. I apologize, I didn't read Kirsten's building committee report before this meeting. I should have, so that's on me. This is a lot of information to take in, and then it's like a big thing to vote on. Feels like the biggest thing to vote on. And so I'm just trying to wrap my head around all of it.
And I would say this is not making any financial commitments. I think if there's a financial aspect of this, we certainly need to bring it back to the group to confirm that the finances are. I don't know if there any thought about placing ads in the newspaper, if that's the level of financial implications or how one might pursue that. I don't think we're talking about a financial commitment at this time.
Who seconded your?
I did,
You did.
and you're right, the people on the building committee haven't been discussing it still.
Right, yeah, and I realize that I'm just like flopping in.
You're throwing into it.
And
That's
I know you guys can have a
That's
conversation,
okay.
and I want to be respectful of that.
That's I mean, it's great that you want to fully understand.
Okay.
Just don't ever agree to anything with a thumbs up emoji.
Beg pardon?
Do not ever agree to anything with a thumbs up emoji. Because in Canada, that's a legally signed contract.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I heard it on wait, don't tell me, so it must be true.
Do you have more questions too, or other questions that you want to share? Any other discussion, any other comments, any other questions? Well, we do have a motion on the floor. We have a second, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Congratulations, passed.
I look forward to process. Thank you.
Director's report.
Director report, but he can't find his glass.
I think that right there. Who's supposed
Oh,
to?
that,
Same box.
that
So yours? Yeah, those are me.
You want to borrow a set and look for yours for a
was-
minute?
You want to borrow mine?
Oh. It's not gonna work.
Well, if it's on the screen, perhaps.
Bring it really close to
Yeah,
your
I must
face.
have- I thought I took them off, but I was doing all
I
these.
don't know how to use
all
this.
these- I don't know.
You need glasses like me to find your glasses.
I'm gonna have to take the place apart. Anyway, the rest of the report. The outside stairway at the Lansingburg branch, we have 2 floors that we use, and there's a giant metal staircase that goes up to the 2nd floor. And it's also essentially a fire escape for the Lansingburg
Oh,
2nd
yeah.
floor. Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it has pulled loose from the building. Now, it does have big legs on it that hold it up. But it's it's not anchored properly to the building anymore. And so I felt that we needed to do those repairs and we needed to proceed right away. I did get an estimate from Ross Brothers of $4,980. And I told him to go ahead. to get that done, and he's already started. Luckily, we did have a grant from the McCarthy Foundation for 15,000, didn't have a specific designation. So I felt that, with that in mind, it wouldn't really be a negative impact on the building repair budget. Going forward on the grants, I checked with Upper Hudson. And it looks like, there's a bigger ask coming in for next year's public library construction grant than we have money to cover. So that changes that picture considerably. So I don't think we probably shouldn't bother to put that courtyard project in with the window grant at this point.
You're gonna need to continue with the window portion of that, but not the courtyard portion?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, since we do have the McCarthy grant, that would cover a significant portion of the courtyard project. But anyway, that's another decision. We want to welcome Emily Crew into as a library assistant at the main library circulation department. We have pretty much exhausted the library assistant civil service list. So Emily will be provisional. Emily is local, a graduate from Lansingburg High School and SUNY Albany. She has a degree in journalism.
Ready for the motion now?
Go for it.
Motion to acknowledge the provisional hire, approve
Sorry.
the provisional hire of Emily Blue as a library assistant.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Is the election is coming up. We have two candidates. Isabella Brown Lorger is decided to try running, and I've given her the signature form. And Zan Strumfeld, who does some of our what is
Works out.
and lives almost less than a block from the library over on Third Street. But anyway, both are in the process of collecting signatures. And those are due actually the 25th of September.
Of August.
I'm in August.
Right. So I have another person who's shown interest, so
Or they could come in here and I could give them their signature papers and,
can I give it to him?
no.
Yes, okay. I'll do it. Yeah. Great.
The League of Women Voters will be conducting the election for us again this year. However, Steve Muller will replace Margaret Story as the coordinator of the event. Margaret is retiring, yes, from that particular business. And lastly, but not leastly, we are still in the process of registering the staff for the New York State retirement system. And they are in the process of not getting the information and having us resend it another number of times. So they're, I don't know why. But currently 17 out of 30 employees are enrolled. Now, as you remember, in a PIAA situation, there were only 6 people.
And there's at
And
least a couple employees who are already in the system.
yeah,
Their day job, so don't have to be.
there were some, right? But we still haven't heard from all of our employees. We said not everybody has filled out the forms and not everybody has decided to sign up. So that may be a larger number than 17, but that's what we have so far.
Great, great. I'm glad to hear it.
And that's all I got.
Even without the
At
black,
least right now. What?
even without the black.
Yes.
Okay, old new business. Going once, going twice. Nobody's got me. Well, okay, real quick. September 13th, by the way, 4 p.m. at the Fine House is the Upper Hudson Expedition Party, so everybody invited. And let's not forget on September 12th, meet the candidate night. Here at Maine, 7 p.m. On the 14th, 7 p.m. at Lansingburg. And September 26th, election.
Yeah.
We've said it, but it bears repeating. Okay. Anyone have community feedback?
I do. I talked to a couple of people who completed the expedition and were really excited about it. And also mentioned that they were excited about the reception they got from the staff here at the Troy Library. One group actually completed at Gilderland and were so disappointed in the reception they got there. They came here subsequently to get a better reception and were pleased with what they received. One of the people who said what a good time she had had completing the expedition also said that she liked the programs and such that were going on at the library, particularly the library of things that was occurring, such as fishing poles, I guess. So I pass it on. Number 2, I ran into the president of the foundation who said that he would really appreciate it if he could get notified when the check is received from them so that he has it for his records.
I believe he was sent. Okay,
It's
check.
not,
I'll check with the chair for like.
It's deposited in cash.
Yes.
pardon?
We did cash it and it's
Right,
deposited.
but you know, it goes to the community foundation, so just because it's not like it comes directly from the foundation or the library foundation, I need to clarify. So that may not be significant for him.
I'll
He
write
wants
the
it
chair
for his
again.
records.
Thank you, Evan.
And lastly, there was a member of the public who wanted to know whether the materials for discussion were posted within the 24 hours preceding the meeting as required by open meeting law. And it helped me if I'm looking in the wrong place. I only found the agenda and the minutes posted online. So that's it.
As far as I know, everything was posted at least 24 hours before.
For the public. All I saw on the library.
Yes. Yep. What is it that I'm supposed to post? I usually post the agenda and the minutes as soon as I get them.
Okay, so anything else that was up for discussion? So for instance, the things that we received. And that you would normally hand out to somebody who was attending the meeting.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That is up to you all. I have not posted the whole packet because we've never done that. We've just done the agenda and the minutes.
According to the person that spoke with me, it's required by open meeting law.
We should verify that, particularly as result relates to financial documents. We shouldn't just do that until we've got them. legal confirmation.
Well, if you called them, they're really good about answering my questions and,
Yeah.
besides what we do financially, most of it is open to the public anyways. Certainly if someone comes that the checks are here, someone can review the actual
Well,
checks.
and ordinarily. Packets are handed out to people who attend, the public who attends.
Well, let's take a look at the open meeting law. I don't remember exactly what it says.
Yeah, I always have to.
Right.
confirm. I don't know it off the top of my head either.
Is it just
Sometimes
the
says-
packets that
No,
are for
the materials.
Materials.
Materials. and
So
stuff?
you know how when somebody attends,
Yeah.
that they're given the
Yeah,
packet.
yeah.
Open meeting law supposedly requires that that be available to the public 24 hours in advance of the meeting.
Mhm.
It's what this person said to me,
And where is that?
which kind of makes sense, you know. That, you know, they need to
I should,
know. in
I
order-
should direct reports included as part of the packet that's posted online.
That's part of the package, yeah.
Yeah, so that's more than minutes, and that's more than an agenda, that's.
I don't think it is, so it isn't posted for the public. It's given to
The-
us, but not posted for the public.
So
I'm
you're saying
sorry,
that The director's report is not posted as part of that?
I just usually post the minutes,
The minutes and,
which also includes the board, everything that Paul talks about is also on there. And then, just the minutes and the agenda is what I was told previously. But if it needs to change, please just let me know and I will update.
we can carefully study the open meeting law again. Because I don't
It
remember.
does seem like we do have to provide everything. It says, the open meeting law has required public bodies or agencies to make available to the public within reasonable limitations the records scheduled to be discussed during the open meeting prior to the meeting. In 2021, the open meeting law was amended to require that copies of records be made available to the public at least 24 hours before a public meeting to the extent predictable. This is the Department of State documents.
Anything else now, that's on this? Okay, public comment? Hearing none. So date and time of next meeting, September 12th. The big one. Any other pieces before we adjourn?
I will regret to say I will be out of town at our next meeting, so I will not be able to attend.
I originally was out of the country. I trumped it.
Which country?
Still on the country, right?
I'm gonna be in 3 countries. Which 3 countries are you going
I
to?
go to Norway.
Well, that's
And-
so.
And I'm going to Germany, Switzerland, and Austria.
Oh,
Maybe
I'll be going this way.
Maybe
you go
France.
this way.
Yeah, so we'll be out of town.
So,
Maybe you'll meet some of us.
Meeting and meet the candidates, you know.
Yeah.
And I will also be missing that, I apologize.
You have something?
Like, sometimes we've had refreshments for the board.
Yes, we have. It's usually good.
I don't know if you want to do that.
Let us talk. Let's
Yeah,
adjourn
we'll
and then we can talk.
about
We'll find out who's coming and who wants what. Anyway, I make the motion that we adjourn. Second? Second, all in favor? Unanimous. Set adjourned.
So do we need to turn off, power down these computers?
Well,
Turn them off.
if you
Turn off that
could-
little power bar and now.
If you